Welcome back to Valencia for the final round of the Moto2 European Championship. Steve English and Fran Weil guiding you through the proceedings here in the south of Spain. Even though Edgar Pons has wrapped up the championship for a second time, there's still a lot to play for today for these riders in the Moto2 class. It's been a fantastic season from Edgar Pons, and he'll start from pole position today. With Pons having claimed 17 race victories in the CEV Moto2 class, it looks like he's going to be moving up to the World Championship next season. This is a look back on his season. With 6 wins and 8 podiums, Edgar Pons, a very deserving 2019 Moto2 European champion. He'll also start today from the front of the field on that front row of the grid. But for Edgar Pons, it now really is a chance to be able to try and cap off his season. He's going to start from second on the grid behind Hector Garza, who's been fast all the way through this weekend. But it is a case now for these riders trying to cap off their seasons and move on to next year. For the likes of Pons, it looks like he's going to be moving to the Moto2 World Championship with the Gresini team. For Hector Garza, he's got a big race here next weekend in the Moto2 Championship. He's leading the Moto2 class and goes to the final round of the year with a chance to claim that title. Conditions pretty much ideal here for the Moto2 riders. There is a bit of a wind blowing, but it has died down a little bit compared to what we had earlier on today. But it will still bring a little bit of a chill onto these tyres. But for these Moto2 machines, as you can see there, 21 degrees track temperature, pretty much about as good as you can expect this time of year in Valencia. Blue skies, not too many clouds. This is ideal conditions. And for the final race of the Moto2 Championship, all these riders are going to have a chance to finish their year on a high and try and bring the fight to the likes of Edgar Pons and Hector Garza. Those two have been the two class riders of the field all the way through this season, and they rightly find themselves first and second in the championship. But it comes down to a big fight in that scrap for third in the championship. Alessandro Zaccone and Tommaso Marcon only separated by 2 points, and that's really what one of the big interesting talking points is going to be throughout the course of this 19-lap Moto2 race around the Ricardo Tormo circuit. This is our pole man, Hector Garza. Of course, Garza, he's had a pretty busy season racing also in the Moto2 Championship. He was the winner last time out in Albacete, and he sits second in the championship. You can see there, he's been on the podium at every race but one through the course of this season. He missed out in that opening race of the year in Estoril in race 1, and ever since then he's been an ever-present figure. That retirement from the opening race of the year really has been the difference between himself and Edgar Pons through the course of this season. For Edgar Pons, though, it really has been a case of utter dominance through the course of this season. He's been able to claim once again the Moto2 European Championship. He's got 17 wins in this class. He's got 2 titles, and he's shown exactly what he can do in the CEV field. But there's always been that little bit of unfinished business on the world stage. It looks like he's going to have the chance to put that right with Gresini next year. But one way or another, this is going to be the end of another record-breaking season for Edgar Pons on that number 57 machine. Down on the front row of the grid, we also have the number 10 machine of Tommaso Marcon. And you can see for the Italian, he's been in that, inside that top 6 pretty much all the way through the season, with the exception of that opening round of the year. The 19-year-old, he's made the step up to a Moto2 bike this season, and that podium in Catalonia, you can see there in race 5, that's been the highlight of the season for him. He comes here 2 points behind Alessandro Zaccone in that scrap for third in the Moto2 European Championship. So a lot to play for the number 10 machine, as Edgar Pons on the 57 makes his way through to the front row of the grid. And for Pons, another opportunity to try and finish his season off in style. He's picked up 6 wins, he did 8 podiums through the course of this season, and in the 11th race of the year, he's keen to add to those numbers once again. But it's going to be tough, because Hector Garza has been the fastest man all the way through this weekend. But that does look like we're going to have a real scrap between those two at the front of the field. You can see Pons there. Look at those stats for this season. 5 pole positions as well. And look at how consistent he's been, other than in Aragon and retiring from the race in Albacete last time out. He really has been consistent all the way through this season. and that's been the hallmark of his European Moto2 career, really. He has spent 3 years in the World Championship as well. He's got 47 Grand Prix starts to his name, so if he goes back to the World Championship next year, he will go there with plenty of experience on the world stage as well as in the European Championship as well. On the second row of the grid, we've also got the speed up of Yari Montella. And for Montella, this has really been a season where he's been the unfortunate man in this class. Last time out in Albacete, he was involved in a 3-rider crash. And unfortunately for Montella, we've seen him involved in quite a few of them through the course of this season. But we've also seen highlights here in Valencia and also in Catalonia. He was very strong. And you can see that those results at the start of the year, 5th, 4th, 3rd. And it looked like he was really able to kick on from that point on. But as I said, unfortunately, a few incidents have held him back through the course of this season. But for Montella, this is a chance to finish his season strong. He is the teammate of Marcon, the 2 speed-up riders. And for all these riders, it is an opportunity to try and fight it out that 3rd in the championship. And Marcon might well need his teammate to be a bit of a backing fighter for him, because Alessandro Zaccone sits 3rd in the championship, Fran. He's only 2 points clear of Marcon in the championship standings. So this really is the battle to keep an eye on through the course of today.
Yeah, it will be, obviously, with Pons already crowned champion and Garza with a good few points in hand in 2nd. It's pretty tight just behind that. So, yeah, definitely one to watch today. And there is Hector Garza, local lad, here racing this weekend before he does the same again next weekend, but in the FIM NL Moto E World Cup. Yeah, and in the Moto E class, he really has been strong all the way through this season, Fran, hasn't he? He's been able to claim race victories, and he's leading that championship. No, he is not. He's almost leading that championship there. You're not far off. No, it's Matteo Ferrari who's currently leading the Moto E standings. But yeah, Garza's had a really solid year there. Couple of mistakes, but overall pretty consistent when a couple of other guys haven't quite been able to turn their superior pace into points. So that'll be one to watch next weekend at this fair circuit. Yeah, of course, Fran. How did I forget about Matteo Ferrari, the man that's always able to turn up in pretty much any class and get himself to the front. We've seen him win stock 1,000 races. We've seen him race in Grand Prix. We've seen him race, obviously, in the CEV Moto2 class as well. And for Matteo Ferrari, he's going to start from a little bit further down the grid than he probably would have expected. But he's definitely going to have the opportunity, Fran, to be able to come through the pack once again from the 6th row of the grid. He is, and also pretty prompt for extracurricular Moto E events is Matteo Ferrari, so that's always a good little extra for the CV that I certainly appreciate. But yeah, so here we have Kazma Daniel bin Kazmayedin, my favourite name on the grid by far, absolutely great. And yeah, podium for him, pretty impressive stuff, and I'm sure he'll be aiming to finish the year off with another good haul of points. Currently 10th overall in the championship, which is pretty good season for him, but he is within reach of certainly 9th and maybe a couple of positions further up as well, depending on what drama we get in this race today. You can see from the crowd it's a little bit breezy, but no such breezes down here then for the Mastercamp team. That's Anupab Sarmoon, who I saw having breakfast this morning looking equally calm and collected. So I'm sure he's ready to also try and add another solid finish to his season. And you can quite clearly see the progress there for him from the first round of the season to now. And yeah, he's really moved up the order, so I'm sure looking for more of the same today. Yeah, first year racing in Europe for Sarmoon, and the Thai riders being able to make pretty steady progress all the way through the campaign to be able to move himself up into those top 10 places in the last couple of rounds. But last time out, Fran, we saw him also involved in one of those incidents that we've seen with Yari Montella, and for Sarmoon it really will be a case of just trying to get through to the end of this race and bring it close to his season with another decent performance. This is Marcel Brenner, the Kiefer Racing rider, and this is his 5th season in the CEV Moto2 class, and he matched his best result of his career last time out in Albacete. He did. And again, Albacete. Come on, Albacete. Get it down. Get it down. But yeah, Brenner, you can see a couple of more uncharacteristic performances well outside the points this season, but then a couple of really solid finishes as well. And like we said, one of those was most recently. So I'm sure he'll be looking for, yeah, a bit of progress today and to, again, at least challenge in that mid-top 10 as a minimum. But it's pretty competitive field here. And there is the man we were just discussing, Mr. Matteo Ferrari, our Moto E points leader. So 22 years old, but like you said, a huge amount of experience in different categories, classes, championships. And yeah, I'm sure he'll be looking for some more good points today. As you can see, Valencia 6th earlier in the season. So good for him, and also I'm sure good to get a bit of track time here before he does try and crown himself the inaugural Moto2 Cup winner next weekend.
Yeah, and for Matteo Ferrari is a case trying to come through there from 10th on the grid, and he's definitely going to have the chance for him to be able to fight it out for those podium spots. He could be one of those flying the ointments in that scrap for third in the championship standings as well. As I said, only 2 points between Zaccone and Tommaso Marcon at the moment, so we could easily have quite a lot of changes going on in that scrap for third.
Could easily have. I'm enjoying the Irish right now. Yeah, absolutely. Like we said earlier in a couple of the races we've had so far, there's the scrap for, you know, the positions in the championship and the positions on the podium between those riders, but there's also a few guys who maybe aren't up for the big prizes, but really can be a bit of a complicating factor for those guys who are trying to round out their season solidly. And here's another one who I'm sure will be aiming to do that, Andy Farid. Again, a little bit further down on the grid than I'm sure he will want to be, the Indonesian, but had a couple of good finishes this season, and knows this track as well, got some experience around here in Moto3 machinery as well. Yeah,
and for Farid, it really is a case just trying to make sure you're able to just keep learning at this stage of his career as well, and just trying to understand a little bit more about these Moto2 machines. These are, of course, last year's Moto2 machines. These don't have the Triumph engine that we see in the World Championship this year. These are still the Honda 600 engines out there, but for the likes of Hector Garza on pole position, he's going to have the chance to try and convert that into an early race lead.
He will, and on that note, I believe it will remain Hondas here as well. So pretty interesting stuff for these guys racing here. So we've got Garzo, Pons, Marcon, Montella, Zaccone, Pons of a different breed, Kazmaidin, Sarmoon and Brenner then on the first three rows. There's a good few names in there who could well challenge, and then we've got Matteo Ferrari and then Indonesians Jerry Salim and Andy Farid alongside each other, with Kenneth Kubo, Matteo Ciprietti, Mark Buchner, Brandon Pash, Peter Bersikirski and Aslan Shah on row 6. Juan Diaz, Takeshi Ishizuka, Aaron Polanco, Julian Meyer, Peter Povalainen, Kevin Orgis, Bin Mohammed, De Fleischauer and Zetti on row 9. And Cedric Tonga, Sam Wilford, Livan Luchel, Manuel Matsula and Adrian Cerezo then rounding out the grid on row 11. And again, good few bikes on this grid in the Moto2 class today.
Yeah, 32 riders out there in the Moto2 class, so a big field here, and there's a big man on the front of the grid as well. Hector Garzo on that pole position. He's keen for him just to be able to finish his season strong. It has been a year that, other than that retirement in the opening race of the year in Estoril, he really has been a close match all the way through this season between himself and Edgar Pons.
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm sure at the start of the season, Pons was the obvious favourite here in Moto2, having obviously won the title before. But Garzo definitely is, had some impressive performances here and in Moto2. It's been a really solid season for him, and I'm sure he'll be very happy to have put in the performances he has, and I'm sure he'll be absolutely gunning for glory here today on home turf.
Yeah, of course, for the likes of Hector Garzo, as you said, just from Valencia, and he really has been strong all the way through this. He's got lots of experience as well from the Moto2 World Championship when he was racing with Tech 3, but to come back here to the CEV class and be able to bring the fight to the gas man Edgar Pons, always a big challenge for any rider.
Yeah, most definitely. We've seen, obviously, Pons and Rafin in the last few seasons been fighting out between them. Then we also had Augusto Fernandez running them pretty close in a few occasions. And Fernandez, obviously, was a Moto2 World Championship title contender right until the penultimate race, or the one before of the season. The maths just caught him out. It was exactly 50 points down and couldn't quite equal the wins of Marquez, and that was it. Challenge over, but incredible season for him. So it does show the quality of the riders in this grid, on this grid I should say, in correct English. And Garzo certainly a rider of quality, and I'm sure today he'll be just bolting for the front straight off. But Pons, of course, now no pressure for him either, so he can afford to push as well and try his best to take the final win of the year. Yeah,
you can see the standings at the moment, 33 points between Pons and Garzo, but it's all about that scrap for third, with Zaccone and Marcon separated by just 2 points. There's a big gap then between them and then Nicky Tooley. Tooley, of course, not in action today, so it really is just that scrap for third in the standings.
It is, and best wishes to Nicky Tooley. I think he was here. Yeah, wishing him all the best in his recovery after his accident in Moto2, another one in Moto2 earlier in the season. Hope to see him back soon. He was a big player in this championship earlier in the year.
And you can see the big players just making their way through to the front of the grid. That's Hector Garzó, the number 4. He's just in front of Edgar Pons on that number 57 machine. And then rounding out the front row of the grid is Tommaso Marcon. It's a 19-lap race here for the Moto2 field, and lots of riders to keep an eye out. That 61 machine there of Zaccone, keep an eye out for him. He's trying to fight it out for 3rd in the championship. You also need to keep an eye out for the likes of Miquel Pons as well. He had a podium last time out in Albacete, and he'll be trying to match that up with another strong result here. We wait for the red lights to come on, and when they go out, we'll be underway for 19 laps here of Moto2 action in Valencia. It looks like Garzó's made a good start. Pons with a really good start too. And Zaccone on that 61, he's been able to get himself through up into 3rd position on the run down in towards turn 1. It looks like Garzó's been able to hold on to that whole shot with the number 55 there of Yari Montella trying to get down the inside into 3rd position. Good start from the leaders. They're all able to make it through the first corner nice and cleanly.
Yeah, nice start from Gaza. It looked like Pons just made a little bit of ground up there, but into turn 1, it was that number 4 machine ahead. So job well done for him. I'm sure he'll now just be push all the way to the finish line. But yeah, you could see as well, it looked like Zaccone had made a really solid start there, but just got boxed out a little bit and lost out, especially in regards to Montella, who's now ahead of him by a couple of bikes.
Yeah, Montella on the speed up. His teammate Marcon on the speed up, the number 10, able to get down the inside of Kazmadin as well. So now the 2 speed ups in 3rd and 4th position. And you can see with Marcon, Fran, he's just trying to make sure he's able to hang on to the back there of Edgar Pons. This is the 96, the teammate of Edgar Pons, Brendan Pash. He's doing a really good job to get himself up into the top 10. This is the first time ever out there on a Moto2 machine. And the British Moto Star champion, he's looking to try and see if he's able to make a move here to the CEV class full-time next season.
Yeah, good stuff, like you said, good progress, and immediately up there. You can see then the 61 of Zaccone with that pink helmet just a little bit bogged down compared to where he will have wanted to be. But at the moment, it's a pretty familiar story, at least in terms of the front 2. It's Garzó and Pons, and Pons there in 2nd, just stalking the number 4 in the lead. But Montella, great momentum and start there, and he's right up on the leaders at the moment.
Yeah, and it's great to see as well. We've got 3 different bikes in those leading 3 positions. The Tech 12 Garzó leads the way, and then it's the Calyx of Pons, and then the speed up of Montella
just
in
about
3rd position. Just about holding on to that. But look at Kazma able to be nice and aggressive down in towards turn 1. Probably a little bit too aggressive, slid out a little bit wide, loses his positions as well. But Fran, the number 27 there of Kazmadin, he's been really aggressive all the way through this season. He's a rider always worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, and it was a pretty nice move, but then just wasn't able to quite make it stick there on the exit, but did stay just about within track limits, which we've seen earlier today, not always easily done. But yeah, definitely one to watch. And at the moment then, it's as you were at the front, with Montella not quite able to make that move, and it is his teammate right behind him. So that's, I imagine, a bit of a comfortable buffer for him in terms of trying to take 3rd in the championship, because I imagine they have said, you know, at least don't skittle your teammate today.
Yeah, that wasn't the case last time out in Albacete whenever the 2 speed-ups came together. Oh, it looks like a crash. There is that Miquel Pons that's gone down on the run down in towards turn 8. It looks like it is Pons.
It is. It's a 77 that's gone down then. So rider up and okay, but yeah, big slide then. Pretty spectacular puff of gravel, but he looks okay at least. Not sure if he'll be able to get that going again, just getting some of the gravel out of that machine. But that's unfortunate for him. They're so early in this race, last one of the year. Going to feel a bit down after that.
Yeah, unfortunately for Miquel Pons, having had a podium last time out, he's going to end the season in the gravel trap. But you can see his namesake there, Edgar Pons. He's just trying to apply that pressure onto Hector Garzó. Fran, Garzo's been fast all the way through this week. He's been leading the times pretty much in every session, claims that pole position, and this is his chance really just to try and lay down a bit of a marker to Edgar Pons.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm sure it will be absolutely everything on the line today from Hector Garzó. And yeah, he won't be afraid to fight it out either. We've seen that from him before. And at the moment, it's a job well done. Managed to take the whole shot and not look back, and not really been under too much threat from Pons either yet. It looks like more the speed-ups who are just sitting there nice and comfortably at the moment in 3rd and 4th. Have to see if Montella can just try to get on a par with Pons just ahead of it and maybe make his life a little more difficult, which would certainly help out Garzó if he can stretch a bit of a gap and then manage to keep that.
Yeah, here's our replay of Pons, and just loses the front on the run down in towards the left-hander. It's a little bit downhill there. It's quite easy to actually lose the front, particularly in the early stages of the race, and just gets caught out there, does Miquel Pons. But the big thing for the riders at the front, Fran, is just to try and make sure they avoid those mistakes in these early stages, because Valencia can catch you out. It's gotten a little bit warmer now as the day's worn on and the winds died down a little bit, but it's still windy enough to really put a chill into these tyres.
Yep, it is, and that's Adrian Cerezo then, who's also gone down. Have to see, it looks like it's just him involved in that incident then. And I think I spoke too soon about the speed up lads, because at the moment there's a little bit more daylight then between Pons in second and those two guys on the chase.
Yeah, just seeing a notification here as well. Sarmoon's going to get a long lap penalty. We saw him struggling to get underway in the warm-up lap. He then went to the wrong grid slot, and he's going to be given a long lap penalty for that infringement. As you said though, Fran, those speed up riders do look like they are just getting dropped a little bit here, like what we've seen through the course of this season. The top two are the top two for a reason.
Absolutely, yeah, they have been consistently the guys with the slightly superior pace here in this European Moto2 Championship. But at the moment, it does look like Garzo has the better pace of the two, though. Just getting pretty comfortable in that race lead at the moment. But the speed ups then, it's going to be a bit of a conundrum soon. If Marcon thinks that he's got the better pace, is he going to sit there? Is he going to attack? Or what are they going to do? Because the man on track behind them, I believe, is the man they have to watch out for in terms of the standings, which is Alessandro Zaccone.
Yeah, if you're a Marcon, are you thinking about third position in the race or third position in the championship?
Well, third position in the race, of course. They are racers. But, you know, it's always an interesting one to watch play out.
Yeah, get down the inside, make those moves, and then try and just to let the championship take care of itself. The speed up there of Montella looks like he ran in a little bit too deep into turn 8. Is that going to open the door for Marcon to try and attack his teammate? Maybe not quite close enough at this stage, but you would imagine, Fran, if he shows half a wheel, that there has been a discussion there for Montella just to be making sure that he does move out of the way. That is Sarmoon. As you can see there, he's been given a ride-through penalty. We actually had on the notification screen a long lap penalty, so it'll be interesting to see which penalty is actually going to be given to Sarmoon, and he's going to at least find his way falling down the order one way or the other. He's in 6th position at the moment, Fran.
Yeah, a bit of a heartbreaker from 6, because that's a pretty solid job done so far. So you'll have to see, can't quite see the dude with the board with the information on from where we're sat. But yeah, so he does definitely have to serve a penalty for that then. And you can see Marcon all over the back of Montella now. And I'm sure when he just saw his teammate go wide a few corners ago, that will have just only added to the incentive to try and get past him pretty soon. And you can see most definitely it's the number 10 at the moment that looks like he's got a little bit more pace. Yeah,
and you can see with the 55 of Montella just that he has held up his teammate as well. They've allowed the two race leaders to stretch out that big lead. It looks like Pons, though, he's the man that's really been able to find the pace over the last lap, and he's been able to close right up onto Hector Garza's back wheel. It's a long race here, though, Fran. 19 laps for these Moto2 riders.
Yeah, it is a long race, and yeah, looks like Pons has really suddenly just reeled him in and pulled the pin a little bit to get back on turns with Garzo. And I thought from that camera angle a second ago that he was already going to lunge for it. But at the moment, though, still in second is the number 57, and these guys locked together with a pretty similar gap between them as well. I think one more little issue for Montella, and Marcon's going to be lining up and moving, going for it.
Yeah, you can see here with Sarmoon, he doesn't take the long lap penalty, and it looks like Race Direction has now updated their information there. It will be a long lap penalty for Montella, or sorry, for Sarmoon, so we'll wait and see whether or not he's given that notice on his pit board as he comes across the line this time, and then he'll have to take the penalty next time around. But for Sarmoon, he finds himself in 6th position. The gap between himself and Zaccone, it's extended its way out to round about a second and a half. So for Sarmoon, he's just losing touch right now already, and for Kazmedine behind him, Fran, he could easily find himself just that little bit too far behind Zaccone as well.
Yeah, definitely, and you can see then Kazmedine going for a move. Oh, that's a nice quick switch back there, taking back the racing line almost immediately. You can see Kubo then, just the number 9 there, has a bit of a moment, going in a little bit too close to the number 27 ahead of him, but nicely collected, and not too much ground actually lost there for the tyre rider.
Yeah, square off that corner, try and get yourself shot out onto that start-finish straight, and just keep yourself in those fights. You can see with the two race leaders, Garzo on the number 4 machine, Edgar Pons on the 57. They've opened up a gap of about 2 seconds between themselves now and Yari Montella in that 3rd position. And for Tommaso Marcon, the goal has to be, Fran, just get yourself into that 3rd position. The gap between Marcon and Zaccone right now in this race, it's around about 5 seconds. So Zaccone's out of contention really in terms of fighting for those podium places unless something bad happens to the two Speed Up riders. So it really is a case now just making sure that you're able to finish third in this championship for Marcon. Only 2 points between Marcon and Zaccone as it stands right now.
Yep, only 2 points. So, yes, pretty tense times out there for the two Speed Up guys in third and fourth at the moment. You see, then it's still Montella there hanging on to it. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a move soon enough because I think the number 10 definitely looks like he's got a little bit more pace in his pocket. Yeah,
Marcon does need to make the move as well because on a count back, if the two riders do stay level on points, Zaccone will win on a count back because he won the opening race of the year in Estoril.
Exactly. So, yeah, this is, you can never really be equal in a championship unless you've done absolutely everything the same in the season, because if you are equal on points, it'll be wins or it'll be podiums, and then it'll just keep going and going and going until someone has done something slightly better than the other. So Zaccone's win definitely gives him that little extra ace in his pocket.
Yeah, the count back rules for different championships are always interesting. The best one I ever saw was in the Rugby World Cup, where it actually comes down to who's made the most penalties or who's had the most bookings and who's had the most sending off.
Yeah, it can get pretty complex stuff to work stuff out, but I think Zaccone with that win, certainly, unless we have an absolute drama at the front of this race, it seems unlikely that Marcon is going to be able to equal that win at the moment, certainly. So yeah, it will depend on these guys though. Who knows if it comes down to that final corner, big drama.
Yeah, and you can see here in the opening third of the race that Pons just doing a good job to shadow the race leader Hector Garzó, and just being able to put himself into a position for just to keep the race leader honest. That really has to be the goal for Edgar Pons at this stage. We've seen all the way through the season Pons a really good tactician out there of just being able to understand the race around him. He's got tons of experience in this championship. That's Sarmoon eventually taking that long lap penalty, and he rejoins just down in the middle of that scrap. That looks like he's rejoined down behind Matteo Ferrari, so that'll be down in about 10th position for Sarmoon, losing 4 spots with the long lap penalty.
Yeah, when there are a few riders around you, it can be pretty expensive in terms of track position, that long lap penalty. But he at least took it fairly cleanly around there. We saw in Malaysia, Alonso Lopez, I think it was in Malaysia, not quite doing that long lap penalty within track limits, and then you have to do it again. So it is important to nail it first time around, which, yeah, he most definitely did, and rejoins then. Have to see if he can use that pace that he's shown so far to just try and get back past those riders he's lost out to.
Yeah, the long lap penalty, particularly at different tracks around this season, has been a real challenge because sometimes it can just be very dusty, very dirty, and it can be a massive penalty, whereas other circuits where the tracks get a little bit more use, it can be at least a little bit cleaner and allow you to be a little bit faster through it. But you can see here at the front of the field, Fran, just how fast Garzo's having to be to try and hold off Edgar Pons. You can see how much both of these riders are riding aggressively and sliding on the entry, using all the engine braking, like what we've always seen in the Moto2 class, and they're just trying to make sure that they can scrub off as much speed, hold off the rider behind them, and then try and just squirt through on the exit. But for Garzó, hasn't put a foot wrong so far.
No, he hasn't. He's definitely taken the pressure pretty well so far, has Garzó. And he is pretty used to that 57 being right up behind him or just in front of him, and the pressure of either trying to keep up with him or trying to hold him off. So I think it should be a good one if it's going to go down to the wire. We've still got a long way to go in this race, so it may well be that one of them does have a little bit more pace than the other. But at the moment, pretty evenly matched still at the front, and Pons still just content to sit there and stalk his prey, as we've seen it pretty often so far this season. So that penalty then for Sarmoon means Kazmaidin has a little bit more breathing space around him in 6th position at the moment.
Yeah, Kazmaidin there on the number 27 machine, the Dynavolt bike, and doing a good job once again. He's just holding off the number 9 machine there of Kubo, but Kubo looks like he could be under attack on the run down in towards turn 1 here from Brenner. But in these Moto2 bikes, Fran, it's not like what we saw in the Moto3 race or in the European Talent Cup. It's a lot harder to try and make the moves down into turn 1.
Yeah, most definitely. It's not a case of 3 wide in there and just see what happens. A bit more of a, bit more tactician's mind needed for a few of these moves in Moto2. But at the moment then you can see Kubo able to keep that position. It is Kubo, not Okubo, although very, very similar in name. Definitely not the same dude.
Yeah, Karia Kubo, of course, a travelling fan club for him in the World Super Sport paddock. You can see Kevin Orr just coming into the pits there on his Yamaha machine. But at the front of the field, still Garzó able to hold off Pons. And Fran, this is exactly what he needs. This is practice for next week as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's all good for Hector Gaza, even just being back on track at this Valencia circuit and just reminding himself of every little bump and getting ready to try and take that Moto2 crown next weekend, as well as, of course, trying to take this race win. And he has been a race winner already this season, as he has been most seasons for quite a while. But definitely this one, though, will be a pretty big scalp to take as Pons races without pressure and evidently at the moment more than able to keep up with the number 4.
Yeah, for Hector Garza, he was, of course, race winner last time out in Albacete. He's been on the podium pretty much all the way through this season, from Aragon onwards. In Aragon, Jerez, Albacete, and now here this final round of the year in Valencia in position for it as well. He's just been that consistent thorn in the side of Edgar Pons. But those opening races of the year where he retired in Estoril and he only scored a few points in race 2 really has been the difference between the two title contenders. But at the front of the field, only 0.3 of a second between them.
It is, yeah. It's pretty much the mirror image of what happened to Edgar Pons last year. It was the first round of the season that really did for his ultimate title challenge then, when it was Jesco Raffin who took the crown. And yeah, Hector Garza this year, just that first round in Estoril is really, like you said, what's dented that challenge, because there's a good few impressive finishes in his season this year, and I'm sure he's keen to add another one now. So, speed up, update on this battle as you were at the moment. Marcon still behind the number 55 of his teammate.
Yeah, Montella was quite strong here in Valencia at the start of the season, and it looks like he's finishing the season in decent form too. But for Marcon, he has to just be thinking in terms of those championship points and trying to make sure he's able to finish third in front of Zaccone. Zaccone, as it is right now, he's 5th, and the gap between himself and Marcon is around about 9 seconds now. But look at how close Marcon's come now in this middle sector here to be able to get right onto that rear wheel of Yari Montella in front of him. But for Marcon, Fran, he wants to make sure he makes the move cleanly. He doesn't want to put any doubt in this.
Yeah, like we said, I wonder what's exactly been said between those two before this race. But at the moment, he's in a good position. Like you said, it would be enough to wrap up that third overall with Zaccone. Yeah, quite a significant gap back to him now, and that's only extending. So it must be a little bit frustrating for the number 61 behind these guys to just see so much daylight ahead of him and know that it could well depend on something he absolutely can't control in this fight for third overall.
Yeah, and for Zaccone, just hasn't had the pace today to be able to get himself into that scrap. We could see there with Marcon though on the run down in towards turn 1, got it a little bit out of shape, just trying to use the engine braking like you always see in the Moto2 class. And just once that bike started to bite back, he just had to nearly sit up a little bit and just try and run in a little bit deeper. So Marcon's still pushing pretty hard at this stage of the race. You can see at the front of the field, Edgar Pons, he's pushing hard. He's a little bit faster last time around than the race leader, Hector Garzó. And Fran, this work gets really interesting for Hector Garzó. He's at the front of this field. He's riding as hard as he can. He's trying to make sure he can open up a gap to Edgar Pons. He's trying to make sure that if Pons makes a mistake, that he's there to take advantage of it, open up that race lead. But the big problem is he can constantly hear Pons. Every time he comes past the pits, he sees the gap to Pons is plus 0 seconds. He knows that Pons is right there with him. That pressure just builds all the way through a race.
It does. I'm sure by this point he's kind of just thinking like, right, well, that noise and that pressure is going to be there right until the end. Just concentrate on making as few mistakes as possible to try and keep that race lead. But it definitely looks like Pons just took a couple of tenths out of him last time around. It was visibly reduced, that gap, and the number 57 really breathing down his neck. And these guys, meanwhile, a bit of the opposite. It looks like Montella's just got a tenth or two back, but it could all change again into turn 1 here. And Marcon, if he can get a bit of a cleaner run through this time, may well be back right on the back wheel of his teammate. Yeah,
Marcon does need to make the move because, as we said earlier on the countback, Zaccone would still manage to hold on to that third in the championship. So for Marcon on that number 10 machine, that's why you're starting to see him get a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more out of shape. It looks pretty clear that Montella's not going to get out of the way for his teammate.
I think we can ascertain that by this point. I don't think the number 55 is going to be moving.
Yari's always been a little bit of his own man. We've seen it through the course of this season that he's been involved in a few instances, and he's going to make sure that his teammate Marcon earns that third in the championship standings. You can see at the front of the field, though, it is still a case of Garzó and Pons shadowing each other. Last time around, Fran, Garzó lost another tenth of a second, so Pons just keeps applying that pressure.
Yeah, most definitely. He's I think that's definitely a tactic from Edgar Pons. Just sit there and breathe down his neck and see if he can take it lap after lap after lap. But so far, Garzó pretty perfect himself. Really solid ride from him so far, and no real cracks in his armour. And then you can see the championship, it would bring him to within 28 points. Obviously, Pons already crowned champion, too late for that charge. But Zaccone, that's a nice little amalgamation of those two names. Zaccone and Marcon, then you can see it would be equal on points, and it would be Zaccone, like we've said, due to that victory he took earlier in the season, taking third overall. So yeah, pretty close there, and it's pretty close between these guys as well. If it does finish like this, it's just 3 points at the end of the year that Pons ultimately took that crown by.
And you can see here for Pons just trying to get himself into a position to try and just keep applying that pressure on Garza. Garza a little bit wider this time on the run down into turn one, so he's still trying to push as hard as possible. Coming into today, obviously, for Edgar Pons, the goal is just to be able to enjoy the final round of the year. For Hector Garza, though, Fran, it's all about just trying to make sure that you're able to finish the year on a high. He wants that confidence before the Moto2 race next week here in Valencia, where he's trying to win that Moto2 Cup. But you can see here in the scrap for third, once again, we saw there Montella a little bit looser on the run down in towards turn one. We're into the final third of the race now. Marcon's going to know that the clock's ticking down for him, and it'd be interesting to know exactly what his pit board is telling him, whether it's saying that you need to get yourself into third to be able to take third in the championship.
Yeah, because he also has to bear in mind that Zaccone win, if he's doing some quick maths on the bike there. But yeah, it does look like he's now maybe looking a little bit more impatient behind his teammate, because yeah, a little bit of a scrappy lap last time around from Montella, and definitely I think we're going to see a move from the number 10 soon-ish, looking at the last couple of laps. But it will be interesting to see. Maybe he'll wait till the end, or yeah, I don't know. Look at them, they're absolutely glued together just in the back of shot, as are the two leaders.
Yeah, and you can see the gas man, Edgar Pons, just trying to make sure that he's able to just keep that watching brief in second spot. He's not quite close enough, Fran, to try and make a move. He hasn't even tried to get down the inside or show half a wheel to the race leader, Hector Garza. It does just show how good of a job Garza has been doing to be able to hold on to that race lead. Good performance from the number 4 so far as we move into the final third of this race.
It is, and I'm sure that's almost worse when you know he's right behind you and you know he's not trying to really make that lunge or attack you that much. Pons seems pretty confident that he'll certainly be able to stay with the number 4 to the end of the race, and that end of the race is getting closer and closer as the laps tick down. And you can see Garza is just looking like it's costing him a little bit more to try and stay ahead of the number 57 now. So oh, here we go then, we have a move, the first one so far of the race, and it'd be interesting to see now, does Pons think that he's got a little bit of pace to try and pull away now? Yeah,
first blood now for Edgar Pons. He gets down the inside into turn 4, but is he going to be able to open up a gap, Fran? We've seen over the last few laps, he has been able just to keep that gap pretty constant to Garza. Does he have a little bit more pace? Can he try and stretch out a little bit of a lead? What can Garza do as well? Is he going to just try and answer straight back, or is he going to just try and keep an eye on what Pons is doing, see if he's going to have the bike underneath him to be able to attack him again? But for Edgar Pons there on the 57, he's now decided now's the time to try and pull the pin. He's going to try and push hard for 2 laps probably, Fran, and then he'll wait and see whether or not he's opening up of a gap or whether it'll go down to that last lap shootout.
Yeah, most definitely. There must be a reason why Pons has chosen now to strike. Therefore, he must think that this is tactically the best way to do it, and maybe he does think he's got that little bit extra to try and pull away from Garza, or at least just to, yeah, put in a few fast laps and just break the number 4 behind him. But at the moment, Garza is still pretty close to his rear wheel, and you can see now, again, over the start-finish line, it's going to be closer than ever. You're almost one bike from that front camera view. And is Garza then going to attack straight back into turn 1? I believe he is.
Yeah, you can see Garza down the inside into turn 1, but a little bit loose on the entry. Is he going to be able to hold that apex? Looks like he is, but Pons is going to be close enough to try and attack down in towards turn 2. Is Pons on the number 57 going to be able to get close enough? Not quite. Good riding there from Garza, and he's been able to make sure that Pons has been put back in his place for now, and that Pons knows that if he's going to win this race, he's going to have to really earn it. This is where Pons made the move last time around. So Fran, you would think that at this stage, these two riders, they're probably just trying to size each other up. They're like fighters in the ring, just trying to make sure that you're able to put yourself into a position to land that big blow to be able to win the fight.
Yeah, definitely. But I would think that if Pons is willing to make that attack already, that he must think that he has got a little bit more pace, and that's also maybe why Garza's chosen to fight pretty much straight back. But at the moment then, it's as you were, and not that much between them at all. And yeah, I think this, I hope this runs right down to the final corner, because I think it could be quite a good fight. Yeah,
you want to see Garza and Pons going toe-to-toe. You want to see them just really having a proper scrap here. These have been the two riders that have been the class of the field in the Moto2 European Championship through the course of this season. and you want to see them have that scrap. You want to see what happens here, though, as well, with Montella still able to hold off Marcon. Marcon needs to get through to finish third in this championship. As it stands right now, he will finish joint third with Zaccone, but Zaccone will win that third place on the count back. So for the number 10 of Marcon, he knows the importance of trying to make sure he can make that move. This is Zaccone on the number 61 machine, currently in position to be able to finish third in the European Championship. And for Zaccone, he's had a pretty lonely race, Fran.
He has. He's in a bit of no man's land out there, is the Italian. He got a big gap in front of him to the two guys fighting over the final spot on the podium, but then also an awful lot of breathing space behind him as well. So he can at least not got too much pressure. He can at least not relax. Obviously, we're in a race, but yeah, try and race his race, make sure he minimizes his mistakes, and all he can do now then is hang on to the position that he's in, and it will all come down to what happens between these two speed ups.
Yeah, what's interesting as well, Fran, right now the pace at the front has dropped off. For the first time, they're lapping down in the 1:37. So right now, Pons and Hector Garza just dropping the pace off. They're not trying to attack one another right now. They're just trying to make sure they can feel each other's out in these final few laps and then try and attack in the final 2 laps. But right now, they know they've got a comfortable gap to these two speed-up riders. You can see here with Montella in third position on the 55. He's not ceding those positions to his teammate. He's going to make sure Marcon has to earn these positions. And for Tommaso Marcon, Fran, he just hasn't really looked like even trying to make a move so far.
Yeah, he seems fairly content, if such a word can exist, like you said, within a race. But definitely not really looked so tempted to try and make a move on the number 55 yet. But he does look a little bit more and more kind of, what's the word, threatening down there in fourth as the laps tick down. But I don't know, is he going to wait until the final lap, or is he going to wait for his moment and then try and pull out a couple of really quick laps to escape his teammate near the end of the race? We'll have to wait and see. But he certainly does look a little bit more comfortable at the moment, I would say. So it's interesting that he's not gone for that move yet. Yeah,
this is the close we've seen him across the line as well. Is he going to be in a position to try and make the move down in towards turn 1? Again, he just comes out of that a little bit earlier.
Well, I was going to say, I think he was in the position to make that move and hasn't made that move. So obviously there is a bit of tactical thinking there from the Italian.
Yeah, and for Marcon, he's just trying to make sure that in 3 laps' time he's able to finish third and claim that third in the championship. But at the front of the field here, you can see Garza and Pons still going at it, and they've been like this all the way through this race. There hasn't been anything more than a couple of tenths separating them all the way through proceedings. Just looking a little bit further down the order, bit of a shout out for Brendan Pash. He's doing a pretty good job there to be scoring points on his Moto2 debut, stepping on to a 600 for the first time. So good performance there from the American. And at the front of the field, though, it's been a great performance from these two, Garza and Pons. They put on a show all the way through the season, Fran. They're putting on a show here for the final race of the year. Yeah,
they most definitely are. Really evenly matched out, and you can see they're coming up then to a back marker as well. That could be a little bit of a complicating factor, but hopefully they'll see that the leaders are coming. Yeah, that's good then, out of the way, and plenty of space for them to carry on their duel here. It's almost like a competitive track day for those two at the moment, just out in the space on their own, and they're still fighting it out.
Yeah, that's the number 29 of Pete the Pole just getting lapped. And of course, in the CEV Moto2 class, you also have those super stock riders as well, and Polish rider, one of those, just getting lapped there. But now with 2 laps to go, Fran, is this the time where if you're Edgar Pons, you try and make your move, or do you wait until the final lap?
I think with Garza, I would wait until the final lap, to be perfectly honest. But it will be interesting to see, won't it? There's limited track time left now. I think this guy's going to wait until the final lap as well. Again, just looks like he's not really pushing on to try and get through there. So I think it's definitely going to be fireworks on the final lap of this race.
Yeah, you wouldn't fancy being inside that speed up pit box right now. Zaccone comes across the line. He's in 5th position, a very lonely 5th position. But as it stands right now, he's 3rd in the Moto2 European Championship. He's level on points with Marcon. So for Zaccone, I tell you what, he's going to be hoping that his compatriot Yari Montella is able to hold on to that 3rd position and allow Zaccone to have that 3rd in the standings. It's been a good season for Zaccone, but as you can see here for Marcon, he's going to try and fight it out now with his teammate. This is the most aggressive we've seen him through this section as well, Fran. So Marcon finally trying to come alive here at the end of the race.
Looks like it. It's almost a 4-wheeled speed up then we've got at the moment in 3rd position. But yeah, definitely looking like he's looking for a way through now. But again, not really not taking the opportunities, because it's not like Montella's made any big errors since a first couple of ones earlier in the race, but definitely not really shoving that door open yet at the moment, just content to still sit there, but he looks really like he's starting to line him up now.
Yeah, he's going to have to try and make that move down in towards turn 1. That's where this is really key, just to try and make sure you're fast through the left-handers at the end of the lap. We saw with Marcon that he was close enough a couple of times, Fran, to try and make the move down into turn 1. He's not close enough to make it here into the final corner, but is he going to be able to get a good drive here? He's right on that rear wheel. Is he going to be close enough to use that slipstream on the run down into turn 1? We didn't really see him break deep into turn 1 at any stage through this race. Garza will get through turn 1, still in the lead as we move on to the final lap, and it looks like Montella's far enough in front to be able to hold on to this third position. So right now, if you're Marcon, you've got 4 kilometers to try and move yourself through and get yourself into third position to take that third in the standings. Edgar Pons, is he close enough to try and get down the inside into the right-hander? Good clean move from Pons. Is Garza going to be able to answer back? Not down into the next corner, but maybe down into turn 6. Garza might try and make the move, but Pons looks like he's pulling the pin, Fran.
He does. He looks like he's pulled the pin there, and it's going to be interesting then. I'm sure Garza's going to throw absolutely everything at this, and I'm sure he will put in any lunge that he's even within the slightest possibility of making stick. But at the moment, the 57 looks like he's played his cards pretty well here and has got a few meters in hand over the number 4.
Yeah, Pons doing a really good job to get himself to the front, and he has managed just to stretch out a little bit of a lead now in this final half lap. Behind them, we're still waiting to see what's going on with the 2 speed up riders. Marcon, is he still in 4th position behind Montella? He is, and he's now got half a lap to try and make this move. And this really is a case, Fran, where you've got to just try and make a move now.
Absolutely.
If you're Marcon. Is he close enough to try and get down the inside into the right hand?
He's almost too close. That's almost what lost him a few meters in the final corner last time around. Just seemed too close to his teammate.
And the big thing is he's now got one last chance. It's into the final corner as Edgar Pons comes out of the final corner to claim this race victory. Another victory for Edgar Pons. He signs off his Moto2 European Championship with yet another victory, and the gas man picks up that win from his championship rival. But you can see here with Montella, contact with Montella and Marcon. Montella absolutely furious with his teammate, and Marcon comes across the line, takes 3rd position. But that might not be the last we see of that, because that was really on the limit there from Marcon as they come across the line. Zaccone comes across to finish in 5th position. He'll be beaten out for 3rd in the championship standings. And you can see there for Zaccone, able just to have a pretty solid season. He picked up a race victory in Estoril, but as it stands right now, he's 4th in the standings. And this man, Tommaso Marcon, is going to finish 3rd in the championship standings, having just about managed to beat his teammate across the line. And beat being the operative word there, because they made big contact. I was
going to say that. Yeah, that was pretty close between the 2 speed ups. And yeah, be interesting to see what happens on the personal and racing side after that. So here we can see that Marcon went for the move at the final corner. And he is a little bit outside track limits there. Just loses out a little bit. And Montella then has the drive. Ooh, it looks very different from that angle, doesn't it?
Yeah, from the front angle, it did look like he closed down that door a little bit more aggressively. But for Marcon and Montella, and you can see Montella looks like he's still in the race here. He's trying to make sure he can get as close to his teammate as possible on the slowdown lap. But for Marcon, it looks like he is going to be able to take that 3rd position. We have seen the results under review for a couple of the races so far today, and it'll be interesting to see what race direction think of that incident between Marconi and Montella. You can see here with Edgar Pons, he's been crowned the European champion already. That was at the last round of the year, and he caps off his season with yet another victory. And for Edgar Pons, he's now got that opportunity to try and move on to the World Championship next year. Hector Garza, though, he'll be able to be back in action here in Valencia next week. Just looking outside of our commentary box, you could see there that Montella giving his teammate Tommaso Marcon a big clap as they came across the pit entry. And for Marcon, he's been able to get the job done and finish 3rd in this race, 3rd in the championship standings. But it really did go right down to the wire, and you can see here that Marcon still just being told a few things there by some of the officials, so it'll be interesting to see exactly what the fallout from that will be. But as it stands right now, Marcon will stand on the podium and he will finish 3rd in the championship. But this man, Edgar Pons, once again able to win here in Valencia, and once again able to cap off a season where he's been crowned the champion in the European Moto2 class. and another race victory for Pons. He bounces back from that bit of disappointment in Albacete when he retired from the second race of the day. But for Pons, he's been able to win races in Valencia, Catalunya, Aragon, Jerez, Albacete, and then now here in Valencia as well. The only round where he didn't win a race was at the opening round of the year in Estoril. It looks like Marcon's been sent back from Parc Ferme now as well. So what's going to happen here for Marcon, the number 10, being wheeled down pit lane, and that could have a massive impact in the fight for third in the world in the Moto2 European Championship as well. As it stands, Montella finished 4th across the line. The gap between the two Speed Up teammates round about 0.2 of a second, and we'll wait and see what happens exactly with Tommaso Marcon. That's Edgar Pons down in Parc Ferme, and as I said, his consistency all the way through this season really has been the hallmark and the calling card for him. He had 2 podiums at the opening round of the year in Estoril. He had a various victory here in Valencia, 2 victories in Catalunya, a win in Aragon, and also in Aragon he didn't finish on the podium. It's only been 2 times this season where he hasn't finished on the podium. He won in Jerez, he won in Albacete, and he retired from race 2 in Albacete. But for Edgar Pons, it really has been an exceptional season. Just seeing now that rider number 10 has exceeded the track limits on the last lap. That is Marcon. He's been forced to drop a position, so Montella is going to manage to be put up onto that podium spot, and Zaccone is going to finish 3rd in the championship. That was a replay of the incident there as they came across the line, and you can see there from Marcon just closing down the line a lot on his teammate Montella, and Montella just you could see how aggrieved he was as he came across the line, and he's going to at least get rewarded with that podium spot. The number 55 now just being wheeled up towards Parc Ferme, and for Montella, he held on to that 3rd place all the way through the race. He wasn't going to give his teammate the opportunity to try and finish 3rd in the championship. He was going to have to make sure that his teammate earned it, but unfortunately for Marcon, he's going to finish 4th in this race. The start of the race, Edgar Pons and Hector Garza were able to get their way through to the front of the field, and from that point onwards they just stretched the lead and they were able to pull out a big gap to the rest of the field. The 2 speed ups behind them of Montella and Marcon had a scrap all the way through the race, but the race will be pretty short for Miquel Pons with that early race crash. You can see already in the early stages just the gap starting to develop between the race leaders and the rest of the field. This was Sarmoon. He had a long lap penalty for lining up on the wrong grid slot, and that ended up just in that second group just stretching it out even further. You can see the 2 speed ups all the way through this race. There wasn't anything between them, and that went all the way down to the very last lap, just like it did for the race lead with Edgar Pons and Hector Garza fighting out. This was an early race move from Pons, but Garza tried to get straight back down the inside. Garza was able to lead until the very last lap, but once again Edgar Pons just times it to perfection to be able to try and make his move to try and get through to the front of the field. This is those closing stages now where Pons just applies the pressure all the way through. He wasn't the only one applying pressure though. Marcon also keeping his teammate Montella honest, but it was Pons that was able to get himself through to the front. He makes that move on Garza, and from that point onwards he got his head down and was able just to stretch out his lead to be able to take another race victory, cap off a great season for Edgar Pons. But behind them it was all about the scrap between the 2 speed ups, and it came down to this instant on the last lap. Montella was aggrieved and his teammate Marcon was able to finish 3rd, or so it seemed at the time. Marcon since been given a penalty, and that has dropped him down to 4th position, and also dropped him down to 4th in the championship standings. So we wait for the podium riders, and it'll be Edgar Pons, Hector Garza and Yari Montella up there on the rostrum. And you can see for Edgar Pons able to claim that victory once again. Caps off a great season and caps off yet another tenure in the Moto2 European Championship, where he's been able to show in the European class at least that he's in a class of his own on a consistent basis. And for Pons, this has been another season where he's been able to claim an awful lot of race victories. Now it's all about seeing what he can build on if he does indeed move up to the Moto2 World Championship, as has been rumoured with the Grassini team. Prize being given there to the team principal for Pons' squad. Of course, for that team, they've been able to get used to an awful lot of success through the course of this season. And on the podium, you can see the riders just receiving their trophies. That's also the stock trophy being given out to the stock winner. That's Joan Diaz. And Diaz was able to finish in 14th position. So a decent performance there from the Spaniard here in the Moto2 class to be able to score points as well. In terms of the Moto2 podium, you can see here for Yari Montella, he's been able to claim that rostrum finish. And you could see just how annoyed he was by what had happened between himself and his teammate in those closing stages. But another podium for Montella. He was on the rostrum in Catalonia, and now his second podium of the season. Hector Garza, once again, unfortunately for Hector, he's finished second best to his championship rival Edgar Pons. It's another podium though for Garza, and he's been really strong all the way through the season, really consistent. It's just really been a couple of non-scores, one in Estoril and one in Catalonia, that has been the difference between himself and this man Edgar Pons. Pons able to finish on the top step of the podium once again. That's his 7th win of the campaign and his 9th podium from 11 races. And for Edgar, he's gotten well used to that all the way through this season, and he'll definitely think that there's more to come from that. Montella being given his check for the day, and we'll wait now for the Spanish national anthem for a race victor, Edgar Pons. So Edgar Pons can celebrate another race victory here in the Moto2 class, and for the Spaniard it really has been a stellar campaign all the way through this season, and he's been well rewarded with being able to get onto that podium at pretty much every round through this season. It's only been 2 races through the campaign where he hasn't stood on the podium, and that's been the hallmark of his consistent championship challenge all the way through this year. For Hector Garza, he'll be back here in Valencia next week for the Moto2 Cup, and he'll have the opportunity to try and win that cup. But for him, second best here to Edgar Pons through the course of today's running. You could see the gap as they came across the line. Not really too much to choose between them. That was the biggest gap we had all the way through the race, just 0.4 of a second. Edgar Pons able to shadow his rival all the way through, takes the race lead with half a lap to go, and then just tries to open up a little bit of a gap. As you can see there between Montella and Marcon, nothing to choose between them for much of the race, and indeed it was the contact across the line that made the difference. Marcon penalised from finishing 3rd to drop down to 4th, having exceeded track limits on that last corner. Zaccone finishes 5th, and he's been able to finish 3rd now in the European Championship as a rookie. So good performance there from the Italian rider. As you can see further down the order, points for Brendan Pash on his Moto2 debut. Also Joan Diaz on that stock machine as well, able to score points. Pete the Pole able to get that final points paying position in 15th. And then the rest of the runners and riders just making their way through in those other points. But we're going to have the opportunity now to hear from our race winner, Edgar Pons, after yet another success. 7th win of the season for the Spaniard.
So, Edgar, you make a habit of ending up on the top step here. Congratulations. You must be happy to end this championship winning season with another win.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I'm very pleased. This weekend has been a bit tough because since the first day I had a lot of pain in the back and it was a bit hard to move on the bike, but we managed to make a really good setting for the bike, to give me what I couldn't give to the bike. So really happy. The race has been good. Luckily, good weather, because in the morning was really cold. But I struggled a bit, where Hector's bike was really fast on the straights, and this made it a bit hard, to pass. But I knew where in the sector 2 I was faster, and so I knew I had to push there, and it all went good, So really happy, really pleased with the team, and yeah.
Y ahora en castellano también, porfa.
Sí, muy contento, ¿no?, de acabar así la temporada. Ha sido un fin de semana un poquito duro. Desde el primer día tenía mucho dolor en la espalda y en las cervicales, que me molestaba mucho, sobre todo en las curvas de derechas, y en todo eso perdíamos mucho. Pero hemos ido trabajando mucho con la moto, ¿no?, para que me dé lo que yo no le podía dar, el peso que no podía meterle. Así que muy contento, ¿no?, muy contento de la carrera. Ha sido un poquito dura. La moto de Héctor corría mucho en las rectas y ni con el rebufo podía ni quedarme detrás suyo. Así que bueno, sabía que en el segundo sector tenía que apretar. Seguro sabía que la curva 4 mi frenada era bastante mejor, así que lo he dado todo ahí y ha salido bien. Así que muy contento y dar las gracias al equipo.
Gracias, enhorabuena.
Gracias.
Gasman, Edgar Pons able to claim that race victory once again, and now he's able to enjoy the rest of the winter because his season's finished. But for Pons, really has been a case of dominance all the way through proceedings. That was the move that he made to take the race lead from Hector Garza, and that was the gap as they came across the line. Only 0.3 of a second between Pons and Garza. There hasn't been much to choose between them all the way through the season, and ultimately it was only a couple of results that went awry for Garza that wrapped up that championship a little bit earlier than probably was expected. But for Edgar Pons, that race victory and another podium just cemented his place in the championship standings. You can see here in the European Championship for Moto2 that Pons was able to claim that championship. He did that last time out in Albacete, and at the end of the season 38 points was the gap between himself and Hector Garza. Zaccone finishes in third in the championship standings by virtue of his victory at the opening round of the year in Estoril. And for Zaccone, he's been able to do a really good job all the way through this season, and holds off Tommaso Marcon, of course, with that penalty on that final lap of the season, and that was the difference between them. And nothing really to choose between them through the season. Nothing really to choose between Pons and Hector Garza as well. Pons is going to have the opportunity to step up next season and show what he can do on the world stage once again. But this race victory showed exactly what he can do in the European Championship. Edgar Pons, our 2019 European Moto2 champion.